Chris, thank you so much for carving out time. I understand you've been, in the chamber making some votes, but thank you for stepping out and joining us.
Oh, it's always good to be with you. I'm sorry for being unpredictable.
Hey, no problem. Believe me, when our men and women and we can say that now in Utah, will be back there casting crucial votes and doing the state's business, we always understand that. Chris, with your background, your experience in the military, your experience at the stick of a B-1 bomber, your experience in writing even books and novels about some of these scenarios, and now as a United States congressman, what in the world is going on with our relationship, Sweden's relationship, the Dutch relationship, in other words, the Western allies, our relationship with Russia? This escalation is really quite startling.
It's extraordinarily troubling, and it should be, and frankly, it hasn't gotten near the attention that it should have. Look, Doug, I think we've entered the second Cold War. You see that they're probing our U.S. defenses in an entire circle around the U.S., from Alaska to the California coast to the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, through Maine. You have this growing relationship, the military particularly in Central and Southern American nations that are unfriendly to us. You see the military campaign in Ukraine, which they entirely deny. They say we have no military forces in Ukraine when we obviously know that they do. It's really like being back in 1982 all over again. And,
and some of that even reminds me of 1962. I'm old enough now. I was just a little kid at the time. But when they're telling us, no, we don't have any nukes in Cuba. No, we have no intention of having nukes in Cuba. No, it is really distressing when they are flat out lying to us and to the world. And they are escalating. Do we steam a big ship in occasionally in a cruiser? Yeah, but there's usually always an obvious reason why. There is contention somewhere. There is something where we need to flex a muscle. There is some way that we need to have a Western United States, NATO, whatever it is, presence in an area. What in the world, what possible excuse can they have for needing to fly right along the international airspace of the United States in the Gulf of Mexico?
Well, again, there is, and it reminds me back when I was a young lieutenant stationed at Langley Air Force Base here on the East Coast and watching the F-15s take off every, 7 or 8 days to go intercept some Russian Bearcats that were coming down the coast. They're doing it again, except for this time they're probing much closer than they ever did before. But let's keep this in mind, too. They've annexed Crimea. They're in the Ukraine. This isn't just a Cold War. This is a hot war in parts of Eastern Europe. And yet we seem to just close our eyes and act as if, well, no, all we got to do is press a reset button, and these guys will be our friends again. And I'm telling you, they just won't. Vladimir Putin does not trust nor respect nor fear the United States any longer. They're going to, if they have not in a technical sense, they certainly have in a practical sense, redesignated us not as a friend or an ally, but as an enemy. And I just think we have to open our eyes to that fact and be willing to deal with it.
Now, Chris, here's the hard question. Is Vladimir Putin simply filling and taking the opportunity of a void that he sees? And sometimes I get these shadowy flashbacks to the late 70s and very early 1980s, when we were perceived around the world as not being willing to act. We were perceived in the world as not having particularly strong leadership. And are we going through the same thing? Is Vladimir Putin simply playing chess with us and sees a real opening, a real lack of, and not just leadership in the White House, but perhaps even in the United States Congress?
Well, I think that's exactly right, Doug. This is what happens when we withdraw our influence as a leader in the world. And I would so love to keep talking about this with you, Doug, but I really have to go. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to spend a minute with you, though.
No problem at all, Chris. I know you've got to run back in for more important votes, and I appreciate you stepping out for just the